Hello YouTube, welcome back for another video. It's incredibly hot here in London today, so rather than doing a really tough practice with me session, I thought we would do something slightly different today. In your questions that you send me in the comment section on YouTube, one thing that comes up time and time again is what cello do you play on, which strings do you use, what rosin do you prefer, and all sorts of questions like that. So today I thought we would do a little video in which I'm going to show you what's inside my cello case. Come along. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Julia Morneweg, and on this channel we talk about all things cello and how to learn to play the cello well. To those of you returning, I want to say a huge thank you for continuing to watch, for subscribing, for liking my videos, for commenting, and especially to those of you who have left me a little tip via the coffee link below. Those really make a huge difference in helping me to make more content. So without further ado, let's have a look at what's inside my cello case. Before we look at what is inside my case, I think I should first of all tell you a little bit about the case itself. Now, the cello case that I use and that I've had for around about exactly 5 years now is a Stevenson case. Stevenson is a wonderful small company, a family business based in Norfolk in the UK, and the founder, Alan Stevenson, he was actually originally, I believe, a double bass player in the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra. And many years ago, he realized there was a real need for incredibly well-made, sturdy cello and double bass cases, especially really to withstand the sort of strains of orchestral touring, which of course the big UK orchestras do an awful lot of. So he started crafting those cases, and to the present day every single case is handcrafted, custom made. There are different sizes, different weights that you can get, and this one here is a pretty lightweight version. It weighs about, I think, 3.2 kilos. And it's really, I would say now, one of the leading cases available on the market. Of course, because they are handmade and they're custom made to your individual instrument. They do come with a certain price tag, but if you have a valuable instrument and if you do as much traveling with it as I do, that's an investment that's well worth making. So when you order one of these cases, what actually happens is you get sent a sheet where you have to take lots of different measurements, because when you can see it, and when I open my case, you can see that the cello fits in absolutely perfectly. So there is the outer shape of the case, but inside, if I take the cello out, there are lots of cushions which are made exactly to the size of your cello. And actually initially I had this case made for my other much smaller cellos. So when I bought the bigger one, I actually went, it was very convenient, I had a concert in Norfolk, and actually went back to the Stevenson workshop, and they completely refitted everything with new pads to make sure that the instrument doesn't move around within the case whatsoever. So, and you can see here, it's all the fittings are incredibly high quality materials, and that is really, I would say, where the main difference lies between a cheap case that you order on eBay for a couple of £100 and a case like this, because with a cheap case, what you will find, and what I've learned the hard way, is that especially fittings like the clasps here to close it, or especially the fittings that hold the shoulder belts, very, very often wear out quite quickly. And that is really something which of course can get very dangerous, especially if the fitting that holds the shoulder belt just wears through, and suddenly, and that has happened to me, you're carrying your cello and it literally falls off your back. So you can see here there's a nice tight bit of elastic rope that secures the neck into place. I have got 2 bowl holders in here. You can get you can order more if you like. And then there is a bag for all my other accessories. And what I like especially is at the back of the case here, there's a bit of elastic which holds any music that I need to carry with me. So now that you have seen the actual case, let's look at the most important thing inside the case, and that is of course my cello. As always, in need of a bit of a clean, but that's something I'm going to leave for later. So this instrument here was made in 1882 by a maker called Charles Boulanger. And he was, as the name suggests, obviously born in France and originally trained in the workshop of Jean-Baptiste Villon. Of course, perhaps Villon being the greatest of the French instrument makers. And anyone who has an interest in sort of fine string instruments, if you take a look at examples of Villon's work, you will see that this bears quite a lot of the hallmarks of it. However, Boulanger didn't stay in France. He actually came to London to work in a workshop called Withers, and which at the time was really one of the main London instrument making workshops. And so I would say the instrument is a little bit of a dual national, but I think for all intents and purposes, Boulanger is actually now considered a British maker. So even though when you actually play his instruments and you compare them sound-wise to sort of the classic British instruments, you will hear that that the sound probably owes a lot more to the Villon school than it does to the British school. The French school, the hallmarks of the French school are really is very powerful projecting sound, and that is actually what drew me to this cello. I've had this cello for not quite 3 years, about two and a half years. And those of you who have been looking at my channel for longer will have seen that my older videos were all made on a very, very different looking cello, because my other one is an old English cello, very, very old, from about 1785. And maybe at some point I'll actually make a video playing both instruments side by side, so you can hear the difference in the sound. And while that instrument I still have it, makes a very, very beautiful mellow sound, that didn't really quite give me what I needed for the kind of work that I do, a lot of which is playing either solo recitals or playing especially a lot of chamber music, and especially in with my piano trio. And for that, when you are really on stage with a 9-foot grand piano and a violin, which violins never struggle to project, you really need a cello that has this sort of power required to hold its own. And so that's what this cello does absolutely beautifully. And even though it's strong, it's powerful, it's still got this wonderful warmth that I absolutely love about it. So yeah, so this is my cello. Of course, a cello is not much without a bow, so I'm going to show you two of my bows today, the ones that I always carry with me in my case. And first up is really this my pride and joy, the love of my life. This wonderful old French bow made by a very famous French maker called Émile Auguste Bouchard. And I am very, very fortunate to have this bow because it actually originally belonged to my late father. These bows are now so incredibly valuable, and I have to say that if I wasn't lucky to have this in the family, there is absolutely no way I could buy one otherwise today. So this bow here is a really beautiful example of Bouchard's work. Especially you can see this wonderful Pernambouc stick here. It's quite a heavy bow, and funnily enough, that's actually the reason why my dad never, he bought it because it was such a beautiful bow, but he never actually played on it an awful lot, funny enough. So this was a bow that was always sort of lying around at home, while he mainly played on two other ones. But for me, I have really always loved the heaviness of that bow, and especially because it's got such a wonderfully balanced stick, so it gives you this incredibly rich, warm sound. And so as you can see here, absolutely beautiful beautiful heel gold mounted bow. So, and as you will have seen in some of my videos, I always cover this bit here, the sort of where my thumb goes, end of the heel meeting the stick. Part of the reason why I always cover this in rubber tubing actually is to make sure that by touching it every day, I don't wear out the stick, because once you get wear and tear on it, that does affect the value of the bow. Because here we're not just talking about a working instrument, but we're really talking about, you know, something that's very, very valuable, and also, well, partly investment. So we really treat them extremely carefully, and that's why I always make sure that really I protect it as much as I can. So it's just, you can see the hair is unusually clean. For once, I just had it rehaired about 2.5 weeks ago by my dear friend Jana Cybulewska in Antwerp. I actually go all the way to Belgium to have my bows rehaired, because the hair that I get is so wonderful. Yeah, so that is bow number 1, which I play on pretty much every single day. My other bow that I have in my case is an old antique German bow by a maker called Frechner. And again, Frechner was actually a company that had quite a lot of people working there, and again, a very, very, very heavy bow, which I remember this bow very fondly, because I actually bought it when I was, I think, about 16 years old, 15 or 16 years old, with my first ever concert fee. And I remember, I think it was about, at the time, I don't know, what would now be around perhaps £300, and but that was 25 years ago. and I actually bought this from a colleague of my dad's, another cellist in his cello section. So and this bow is really, really heavy. I think it's about 92 grams. So it's really, when it's on the string, you feel it. But obviously with a bow that weight, there are things for which it is great. There are things which will be quite tough to do with that. So if I have to do things which are very, very nimble, this is maybe not the bow I would reach for. But yeah, nonetheless, a great bow, which I do love dearly, and still also use quite frequently. Now, my case wouldn't be complete without this. A pouch that says Julia's Organized Chaos. And Julia's Organized Chaos basically means everything else thrown into one pouch that I need to do my job. So we'll have a little look inside. What do we have in there? We have rosin. We have a lot of spare strings. We're going to go through each of these in turn in a second. And we have got, most importantly, can never do without those, 2 pencils with really good rubbers on them. So before I talk about each of these things in turn, this little bag I bought myself about 3 years ago in Ljubljana in Slovenia, where I was teaching, giving some masterclasses, and there was this wonderful shop that basically sort of stitches anything you like onto bags, aprons, whatever you want. And there was one of those in the window, and I can't remember whether it already said Julia's on it, but it said Organized Chaos, and I was like, okay, this is the one that I need. So it's been in my case ever since. Always makes everyone at work chuckle, but very important. So now let's have a look at each of the elements inside. Now, perhaps let's start off with the rosin. Now, and this is actually something where at the moment I am a little bit searching for the right rosin, because for many years I used a rosin. Actually, many cellists used a rosin called Andrea, which had a really great formula. You needed very little of it, sort of couple of swipes a day, and it had wonderful grip and worked really well. And a few years ago, unfortunately, the company got taken over, and somehow they messed around a little bit with that formula. And it was very funny, because at some point at work we all kind of started saying to you that, I don't know, do you find that the rosin has gone a bit weird? And I said, yeah, it's not quite what it used to be, is it? So we all started looking for alternatives, and the latest one I bought here in my case at the moment is a brand called Leatherwood. You can see it's all, it looks very nice. It has its own little leather pouch, and it's in this little block of wood here, and it is also obscenely expensive. I think I paid about £70 for this. And well, I'm just going to say it as I say it. I don't think I'll be buying another one. It's all right, but it's certainly not something which I think is worth £70. And it's certainly, you need a lot more of it than I needed of the other one. So yeah, I'm still looking at the moment for the perfect rosin. think once I've used this up, I'll be trying others, and I'll keep you posted. Maybe I should try a few and make a video on this and compare and contrast. So that is the Rosin. Now, one of the most common questions I get from you guys is, which strings do you use? Now, on my cello, which I just showed you on my Boulanger cello, I play a full set of these, and that is a string by the Danish maker Rosin, called Il Canone. Il Canone, of course, if you're not familiar with it, the name of a very, very famous violin that used to belong to Niccolo Paganini. So this is a series of strings that's only been on the market for a few years, and they come in two different options, two different types. There is one that's called direct and focused, and there is one called warm and broad. And actually the ones that I use on my cello are the warm and broad ones, because my cello is already quite sort of bright and quite strident, so I don't need to add sort of any more edge to that. And so I've played these strings, really. They were on this cello actually when I bought it, and I absolutely love them. So, but the thing is with strings, I cannot guarantee you that if you were to put these onto another cello, they would work just as well. So I play on my other cello, I play a completely different combination of strings. You really have to try out with each cello what is the sort of intrinsic tendency of sound of the cello, and what are you trying to bring out more, what are you perhaps trying to dampen down. So, and as you can see here, I mean, this is organized chaos, because I've tried to become better now, that whenever I take an old string off, I actually write the date, so when I took it off, so I know what is, put it back into the relevant pouch. But I also have a whole bundle of loose strings in here, which is probably, some of them have probably been in my case for, okay, I'm not even going to say how long, but you know what, they still work. And every so often, when I have a student also who's got a cello with absolutely ghastly strings on it, I just reach into that bag and say, okay, let's just, you know, see what I've got here, and let's try putting another string on it. But you can see there are different brands in here. So these are the sort of normal, in inverted commas, Rosins, which I play on my other cello. And then there's also whatever Pirazzi by Pirastro, which I have also played in the past. So what I would say is, obviously when you're just starting out and you just get your first cello, it's, you know, they usually tend to come with quite sort of, you know, tinny sounding, quite cheap sort of tinny sounding strings. And for the very beginning, that doesn't matter, but the moment, you know, you're becoming a little bit more advanced, that's really when I say to my students, okay, let's put some proper strings on. I get all my strings on the internet in the UK from a company called String Zone, and there you can really see the whole range of everything that you can get. They do vary in price. I mean, the ones that I'm using at the moment, the Il Canone, are very much on the upper end of the spectrum, but there is quite a wide range available that you can get. Of course, they do become more expensive the lower you go. So I think now a string, I can't remember, is probably somewhere around between 25 and 40 pounds, all the way to the C string, which of course, because it's much thicker, you are getting closer to £100. But it's also worth saying that I have to change my upper two strings a lot more frequently than my lower two strings. So, I mean, I play my strings for perhaps longer than many of my colleagues would. I'm just a bit stingy, but the upper two I can sometimes stretch 6 months up to a year. The lower ones I can easily play for two and a half years. So in fact, the lower ones usually take a little bit of time to break in before they actually sound good. So that's the strings. Yeah, the pencils, guys. I keep telling my students, you can't show up to a lesson, you can't show up to a rehearsal without a decent pencil. So these are my favorite ones here. They can order them on Amazon. Faber-Castell, with a nice rubber which doesn't smear when you use it on the page. And because pencils have a habit of disappearing, I always keep two on me, and usually at least every other month I have to put in another order. So that only leaves me with perhaps showing you this, my nice filthy microfiber cloth that I use to clean. This is really something just Spontex microfiber cloth that you really buy in the cleaning section of the supermarket. Yeah, so that's pretty much day to day the only thing I use to wipe down the cello after I play, and the bow stick, of course, as well, because you don't want loads of caked up rosin to stay on the stick. It becomes quite gross. And yeah, that is pretty much it. So I hope that answers your questions, and if you have any more, do stick them into the comments section below and I'll be happy to answer. See you soon. Cheerio.